Blog Talk Radio.
Are you ready? The champ is here! It's just a man! Give me a hell yeah! What the rock is cooking? To be the man, you have to be the man! Big Papa Pump! It's your hookup! Fallen! Holla! And the air! Woo, woo, woo! Cup of coffee in the big day.
It's Wednesday. You know what that means. A new edition of Working the Marks right here on Famcast Media. Folks, sharing is caring. Click that share button and let everybody know how much you love Working the Marks right here on StreamYard via Facebook Live and also on our YouTube channel. I am New Jersey's premier journalist. You know who it is, folks. The most handsome face that runs the place, Fernando Uribe, and he is New Jersey's most premier wrestling analyst, the PBR superstar. I don't know about the real star of the show. I feel like Disco Inferno here, the superior one, informing and educating every week, but he's PBR.
In your imagination.
I don't know about that. That's not what the degrees behind me say. PBR.
Oh, anybody could get that. I mean, that's just being able to retain information, okay?
Sure.
You know, I got a degree in something called life, pal, all right?
There we go. Okay.
You wouldn't be able to hang, all right? You'd probably just complain your way out of it like you do with everything else, but that's all right. Listen, it's good. It's nice of you to finally fucking show up, huh? Finally grace us with your present, with your fucking, where'd you find that, in the garbage, that T-shirt? Jesus Christ.
Well, it's one of the hottest selling shirts on WWEshopzone.com.
Oh, Marks will buy anything. That doesn't mean anything. You interrupted me from doing my Tony Khan impersonation. I was trying not to blink.
Well, that would infer you're on Adderall or cocaine. We don't want to.
What? What are you talking about?
Folks, again, thank you for joining us here on a Wednesday. A lot to
nice of you to show up, Uribe, finally.
I know. Well, listen.
I had to. Let me tell you something. My back is killing me from carrying this show. Okay? D, he did his part. But I had to carry the show because obviously I'm the star of the show, not you, because you show up whenever, cuando te sale del culo, as we say in Spanish. All right? But nice of you to fucking finally be here, Uribe.
Well, it's good to be back in the States. Obviously, back on Famcast Media. Folks, for all you pro wrestling fans, it's the best hour of pro wrestling news and commentary anywhere on the net.
Hopefully it's an hour today.
Hopefully. And it's going to be here on Famcast Media. Pat, great to be back with you, brother. Let's dive right into the news. Interesting story today, man. I'm not sure if you saw it on Twitter. Actually happened to be on a few mainstream sites like Sports Illustrated today. Tammy Sytch, formerly known as Sunny, WWF/WWE Hall of Famer, Sunny, pleading no contest today in a Florida courtroom to a DUI manslaughter charge and ultimately faces up to 25 years in state prison. So certainly, the life of Tammy Sytch has been really full of hills and valleys, folks. And but right now, she's perhaps at her lowest point. She was set to face trial for a DUI manslaughter charge from an incident occurring back in the spring of 2022. She's entered a plea of no contest to that felony charge, which ultimately makes the most significant development in her legal case. If you all remember, she was arrested in May of 2022 in connection to the unfortunate death of Julian Lassiter, a 75-year-old driver who lost his life in a traffic incident.
Is it Jay or Julian Lassiter?
Julian Lassiter.
Okay.
Just I'm not that lucky to have Jay Lassiter expired. So, and it took place in Ormond Beach, Florida. And the charges she faced include one count of DUI causing death, another count of causing death while operating a vehicle with a suspended and or revoked license, 4 counts of DUIs causing injury to a person, and 3 counts of DUI causing damage to property. As reported today, Sytch's decision has potential repercussions with, again, a maximum prison sentence of 25 years. Now, it depends on what the judge will sentence her to. But there's a lot of mitigating factors here. Of course, all the charges combined. Apart from her plea in relation to a felony causing death charge, court documents did detail that Sytch also pleaded no contest to a felony charge of driving with a suspended license and obviously causing death. It underscores really the gravity of the situation. When she was taken into custody, she had a blood alcohol content of 0.08 or higher. Detail given her history of previous arrests due to impaired driving. Pat, this could ultimately be really the sad ending to the life of Tammy Sytch, because she just might die in prison. We're talking about a long prison, and it's a sad. I think it's really the ultimate sad ending for her.
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to say that my thoughts in this upcoming segment are sponsored by Estrella Galicia. Estrella Galicia. When you need a little kick on your weekend. It's unfortunate that this happened. It's unfortunate that Tammy has had so many problems throughout the years. Speaking as somebody who came across Tammy and Chris when, they had just left ECW, when they had closed down and they were doing indie dates and stuff. Actually, this was right after he left WCW, actually. He was rocking the Terry Funk tights. Chris was obviously just such a cool guy, really nice person, somebody who I have immense respect for. And Tammy, too, man. Tammy was really cool with us young wrestlers. She let us sit and hang out with Chris. She didn't give a shit. She didn't torment us like she did to some of the other guys. But they were marks, so they kind of deserved it. But, she was always very nice to me in my personal encounters with her. Then again, I wasn't really anybody on the card, so I could understand, why she might not have felt threatened by somebody like me or some of the other younger wrestlers that, were with me. But just something incredibly sad to see. She hasn't been able to kind of deal with those demons, and it's unfortunate that it's come to this. More than likely, she's probably going to die in prison, and just what a sad end to, a story of a beautiful woman, and a person that was loved by, a lot of people, really. Just a sad situation to see. I feel for the family of the guy who passed away in that accident. And it goes to show you, you can't fuck around, man. You can't fuck around when it comes to drugs or alcohol. Be smart about it, folks. You want to have a drink out there, call an Uber, man. Have a friend give you a ride. There's a million different ways to do it. You're taking any kind of recreational drugs, be smart about it, man. Don't go out there. Don't operate a vehicle impaired. But just a sad end to a once very, very promising career and an iconic talent. I think it's safe to say that she's iconic, Fernando. She was the first diva, pretty much, that we had in the business. And the boyhood dream of many a young man growing up, myself included. So sad end to see for Tammy, but even worse for the family that lost their loved one.
No, certainly. And, just a few weeks back during the premiere of this season's Dark Side of the Ring, just from looking at some research, it was one of the highest rated episodes this season, documenting her story along with Chris Candido and what a fall from grace that was for him for different reasons than hers. A little bit more on Dark Side later, as rumors are running rampant that due to the success of this season, possibly season 5 could be coming up for Vice, but more on that later.
Will we finally see Dark Side of the Dark Side? Like, will they talk about Palpatine? Palpatine, I heard, was there on January 6th. Anakin was involved with some of the BLM riots somewhere. I don't know if that's ever talked about. Yoda.
Yeah.
Well, Yoda was a part of the first Antifa group that was out there, from what I understand as well. So, a very dark past for some of these Jedis and Sith Lords. But, Vice, if you're listening, please, Dark Side of the Dark Side, would love to see it.
But obviously for a lot of us that maybe don't remember really what happened to Skip and Sonny in the mid to late 90s, I thought that was a good refresher for people. But back to Tammy's situation, you're looking at this and, the details are serious. And I think one of the more egregious things, and maybe a big mitigating, again, I'm not an attorney, but certainly I would argue that one of the mitigating factors in sentencing coming up is the amount of DUIs that she's had under her belt already, which is really weird because whether it's in the state of Florida, I know she's had one in, I think, Virginia, even back in New Jersey. The idea that she's even been able to operate a motor vehicle after so many years when, again, these DUIs have been piling up, like my student loan bills that have yet to be repaid, which was promised to me. But, it's weird. So I don't know if the judge ultimately during sentencing is going to take that into consideration and imposes the maximum sentence. She's not old per se. She's in her 40s now. But again, when you're talking about a maximum sentence of 25 years to prison, life in prison, she very well could die there. And I don't know what job her attorneys, there certainly isn't some public campaign to ask for leniency. I doubt Governor DeSantis will pardon her. It's a sad ending to her. And I think hopefully it's a cautionary tale, not just for people in the wrestling, but I think just for life in general about taking that many liberties. And, sooner or later, you compile that many DUIs, and in this case, she killed a person and she caused considerable property damage. I'm sure that any restitution that is owed to that family, they won't see a nickel. And it's a shame because of what happened, obviously, going into that incident back in the spring of last year. We'll see. I think sentencing is expected sometime in the fall. We'll keep you posted here, folks, on the show as to any developments in this case, but certainly a very sad ending.
Fern, there was a couple of comments there from the Dungeon podcast. Somebody had said, why can't Sean save her? What is Sean supposed to do? Super kick the fucking cop? Is that what he's supposed to do? He's gonna super kick the fucking the fucking blood alcohol fucking gun. He's gonna super kick that shit out of the cop's hand for her. Like, really? And then what? Sexy Boy's gonna play and he's gonna take off in a fucking helicopter? Let's be real. She needed to save herself. And honestly, it could have been a lot stiffer, the penalty. Let's be real. It could have been a lot worse. She could have been sentenced to death. If she would have had a bunch of banned books in that car while she was drinking and driving, forget about it. They would have sentenced her to death. So
it's possible.
She lucked out. But yeah, man, just a really, really messed up situation, man. And it's a shame. And to your point, man, I hope this serves as a cautionary tale to a lot of young talent, to just people out there in general, man. Be a little bit wiser with your decisions because they do come with serious consequences.
Absolutely. Moving on to the news now, more contemporary news with current talent. We're actually no longer talent. Lacey Evans no longer with WWE. The 33-year-old mom and former Marine hinted at her departure in social media on Monday. Details are not yet available as to what happened. Obviously, when you look at her Instagram, that's a really nice ass there. Wow. As she wrote on her legal name, when the clock strikes 12, you will address me as Macy Estrella from here on out. And this jacket is up for grabs. Be on the lookout, she wrote. I got to tell you, again, if you don't follow her, it's Limitless Macy on Instagram and Twitter. I got to tell you, man, hashtags coming soon, hashtags no manners Macy, hashtags got to think of something other cool hashtags, kind of funny. She's been with WWE since 2016. Obviously someone that stood out at the Performance Center in Orlando. Great gimmick that they gave her, the Southern Belle, back in the spring of 2018. Was involved in a very hot program, if everyone remembers that. Actually, the following year, in 2019, when she teamed up with Baron Corbin against then WWE Universal Champion Seth Rollins and his wife, the Becky Two Belts at the time, Becky Lynch. So that was a really hot program for her. Obviously, the Southern Belle gimmick fizzled out for whatever reason. They tried to adopt a more sort of serious look to her character. She is a U.S. Marine, one that was trying to be built up as a sympathetic figure, someone who grew up in a broken home, left home because of just abuse, joined the Marine Corps. Obviously, I thank her for her service, probably one of the hottest looking Marines I've ever seen. And they try to evoke that character with her. Obviously, she got into a little bit of a Twitter war with Sergeant Slaughter, WWE Hall of Famer and former World Wrestling Federation champion. Again, when they brought it back on television, though, Pat, it was weird because it wasn't really getting the reception. And you would think, hey, they're trying to play off this sympathetic baby face. Hey, I'm trying to make it. I'm a single mom. Obviously, we all know that in 2019, 2020, or 2021, excuse me, there was the kayfabe storyline that Ric Flair turned on his daughter, Charlotte, to go manage Lacey Evans because he got Lacey pregnant. Coincidentally, Lacey was already pregnant in real life, so it was easy to write her off television. But I don't want to be the typical mark and say they didn't book her correctly or they didn't use her right. I just think someone who it's
the booking weird. Committee.
Some booking committees, yeah. It's hard to sort of put a finger on the pulse here of what went wrong with Lacey Evans. I think they tried to put her out there. I think she got over at first as a heel with the Southern Belle character. The Marine character, I don't know, it just didn't resonate. You could tell that the crowd wasn't really popping for it. Not because people, we don't like servicemen or women. I mean, obviously it's an inspiring story. It just wasn't getting over, and it's weird. She's still young, I think. Where she, catches on next remains to be seen. But a good-looking woman, good athlete, I mean, I think she checks off a lot of boxes. We'll see what happens. Yeah, look at that ass right there. That's amazing. You know what? I hope
It's kind of small.
Well, okay. Well, again, it's just
What world you live in?
It's a small ass.
Well,
You're a white dude. You don't know nothing about butts.
I
not
know
white.
all about ass.
Don't know about me. But again, just it's weird. Man.
Look, I'm Puerto Rican, bro. I'm the butt expert. That's a little
There you
ass. It's a nice ass, but it's a little ass.
There's really not a concise way to figure out what went wrong with Lacey Evans, man.
She didn't have a bigger rump roaster.
First of all, my thoughts in this segment are brought to you by Doñita Plantain Chips. When I'm looking for a cool, refreshing snack that takes me back to La Capital, I go and I get some Doñita Plantain Chips. Really crunchy, crispity. As far as Lacey Evans goes, you know, her first gimmick, I have to say, was probably her best, the Sassy Southern Belle. I thought that was interesting. You could put it in any fucking era and it would work. You know, the finish, the women's right, like everything was cool for that. And she really kayfabed the hell out of it. But I think something happened maybe personally where they kind of had to take her off TV.
Well, she got pregnant. I mean,
well, no, even before that though.
Oh, really?
Even
Okay.
Before that, because didn't they like revamp her thing a few times? Because at first she was totally different. Like when she was in developmental, that gimmick was entirely different than it was on the main roster. It was similar to an extent, but I think she was more gimmicky with it. And that to me was like one of the best characters that they came up with.
no, but Pat, she was still the Southern Belle in the whole Ric Flair Charlotte thing, and that's
Yeah, but they modified it though. She was more kind of like 1940s, 1950s female kind of shit, like Rosie the Riveter type of deal.
Okay.
At that point, she kind of became more like a pinup. You know, I think maybe that was the next evolution of that. But you know, it just I don't know. It never really caught on with her. She wasn't bad in the ring necessarily, but she wasn't necessarily memorable. But I mean, look, you know, it happens. I think she's gonna end up working for the Snowman. So at some point or another, she's probably gonna end up in AEW. But you know, maybe they'll bring her in for All In or something like that. We don't know just yet. But yeah, man. I mean, for me, it's just again, it's a character that had potential, didn't really catch on for whatever reason, and she just kind of fizzled out. You know it's bad when like Sergeant Slaughter has bad things to say about you. You know, fucking you're fighting with a G.I. Joe. You know.
Well, it was funny because remember, I think a lot of the heat just stems from the fact that Lacey Evans called him out and said, "Listen, I actually served in the Marine Corps. You never did. You took some deferments and never ever served." So again, I think when it gets in that sort of pissing match about the character, and I remember I think we were talking about this off the air once, where hey, if they're going to turn her heel, what better person as a heater, as a manager, to bring back Sergeant Slaughter with her? Back when he came back, you know, when he returned to WWF in 1990 as the heel Sergeant Slaughter, we talked about this before. It's like, hey, that wouldn't be a bad move to bring him back as her manager. I mean, she was at that point already kind of like the harsh drill instructor in the Marine Corps. Interesting. I don't know. I just think it'll be interesting to see where she lands. She's still relatively young in the sense of life years. We'll see where she lands in the business, but I don't know. I think they kind of did their best with her in terms of trying to, I would say maybe, you know, I guess give her TV time. As I remember, I think in 2021, when she was feuding with Charlotte, having Rick turn on Charlotte to go with Lacey, and then again the kayfabe angle of, okay, now Ric Flair impregnated Lacey Evans. And subsequently, obviously, we all know that Ric Flair got in trouble after that due to the Dark Side of the Ring, you know, Plane Ride from Hell episode, which pretty much got him booted off WWE TV. And then subsequently, she was already married and she got pregnant altogether. So it was just like one sequence of events after another. And I don't think she ever really recovered from that. I mean, good for her. She's a mom. Congratulations to her for that.
She's a model American too.
She's a model American, I'll tell you. But it'll be interesting to see where she lands, and I think she's still a salvageable talent. But again, if WWE couldn't really do much more with her, I doubt. I mean, unless she goes to Impact, because at least Scott D'Amore's got a good creative mind. But if she goes anywhere else, Tony Khan's going to waste her, as we all know. He's been wasting people.
Dude, what are you talking about, man? She's gonna have a match against Sky Blue. Come on, they're gonna have a fucking 5-star match.
Well, I wouldn't mind seeing Sky Blue more on my TV.
Meltzer's gonna talk. I mean, Lacey Evans. I mean, she's a star. Macy Estrella. I mean, come on. What didn't they see? I mean, come on. And then Jordan Peterson could get in on there.
Well, I originally thought she was a very powerful woman, a great woman, a model American, and then Derek Jeter could get involved because he got a frog voice too.
By the way, speaking of Jordan Peterson, I don't know if you saw it on Twitter. Bailey is catching some heat because apparently
she was reading a Jordan Peterson book.
Yeah, well, she's smart. The guy's an educated writer.
How is that smart, nigga? It's a book. She's just reading a book. Come on. And pardon my N-word, but whatever. I'm from the hood, all right?
Jordan Peterson isn't some ham and egg or academically or intellectually, but okay.
He's a fucking clown. He's fucking clown. He's another fucking hack working a gimmick. Come on. But hey, he's an intelligent dude. He has interesting things to say about life. Okay? How he feels politically, whatever. That's his business. That's her business too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting. I mean,
I appreciate Bailey no matter what.
We'll see if she catches some heat. I hope.
Oh, we all do.
And Bailey, please answer my calls, man.
Yeah,
I feel like that song "Stan." So
hopefully she doesn't face any heat or cancel culture.
She's not gonna face any heat. Oh God, stop, really, stop. Over reading a fucking book, like, come on.
All right.
Look, people don't have to root for her. Okay, that's it. People don't have to like her. That's fine. If anything, this is helping her heel gimmick. Fantastic. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's fair.
But like at the end of the day, bro, ain't nobody gonna cancel her, okay? Ain't nobody gonna cancel her. She ain't hurting nobody. You know what I'm saying? She ain't doing nothing wrong. She don't have a history of racist tweets and racist shows and all that other stuff. She's not gonna victimize herself like some people do, like some conservatives do. Yeah. Okay?
I see a lot of those out there. No,
how can you be a victim and an alpha male at the same time? That's my question, right? But whatever. That's for another show, isn't it?
Absolutely. On Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Speaking of heel gimmicks, let's move on here to interesting take this week on Busted Open Radio, that wonderful podcast on Sirius XM. You can listen to, I believe, not sure what channel it is, but I'll find out because I do listen to
with the other LaGreca brother.
Well, the most talented LaGreca in the family, David LaGreca.
Debatable.
Devoted member of Cowboy Nation like myself, so good people, David LaGreca, and devoted member of Laker Nation as well, Mr. LaGreca. So good stuff there. Interesting take by one of his co-hosts, Bully Ray, this week on why Enzo Amore isn't signed to a major promotion. So that's a question that was on the discussion this week on Busted Open Radio, and Bully Ray has an idea why. So during the episode this week, he suggested that the former WWE Cruiserweight Champion attitude has cost him a contract consistently with a major promotion. He said, quote, this week, I think the real reason Enzo doesn't work for anybody is he cannot be controlled, and we live in an industry these days where they want to be able to control you at all times. Interesting. I personally think that if any company were to take a chance on him, he would do some decent numbers and some decent business for them. Enzo, coincidentally, will be making his debut for New Japan Pro Wrestling at the upcoming All-Star Junior Festival USA event this weekend on the West Coast. Interesting take by Bully. I think what we've read over the years, though, Pat, is that he can be very difficult in the locker room. He's done some polarizing things in the locker room. Certainly has not endeared himself to veterans, to creative, even, for a time, even Vince McMahon, when Vince McMahon was running WWE. Not a surprise there, but I thought it was really interesting the way Bully phrased it, where Bully is sort of making this sort of blanket statement and sort of painting with the broad brushes. We live in an industry these days where they want to be able to control you at all times. Interesting. I personally think that, if any company were to take a chance on him, he would do decent numbers and decent business. I disagree with the last part of the sentence. I don't know about doing decent numbers and business. When he was Cruiserweight Champion, it was very, very underwhelming, very uninspiring. When they broke up Enzo and Kaz, I thought that was an entertaining tag team back in 2016 when they got elevated to the main roster from NXT, like the Monday after WrestleMania. I mean, that pop was ridiculous in the building in Dallas when they confronted the Dudley Boys. And I just thought that once they broke them up, I think it did them both a disservice. But the idea that Bully's smart, man. So when Bully says something like that, he's either saying it on purpose or he's trying to get heat, or I think he's just trying to sort of maybe expose something that doesn't get talked about enough in the wrestling business. Pat, what are your thoughts, bro?
At the end of the day, I think he's just doing what he wants. He has outside interests. He has a band, which a friend to the Famcast Media shows, Alejandro Mena, formerly of Concrete Dream, now in Parallels. He's actually in his band. Greg Telfanian, who's the drummer and is also the drummer and lead singer of The Light, studio mate of the child actors over there in Mamax Studios. And those guys tell me that, he has a great time playing with the band. He pretty much does whatever he wants. He does good numbers at autograph signings. He gets paid well for his indie dates. I mean, it's possible to do your thing once you're out of the machine, And I think that if you really wanted to go back to working there or working in AEW or working anywhere, he could. And he's doing what he wants. He's calling his shots, and I think he's doing his thing. And getting back to the Cruiserweight title thing, it was difficult with that because nobody's going to take that belt seriously. Nobody. It's not presented in a serious way, okay? The way they did it was not anything where it's on par with, let's say, the secondary titles like, the U.S. title or the prestigious Intercontinental Championship or the world titles or any of that. You know what I'm saying? It's not on par with any of that, and it's not presented as such. Where, like, in other companies, you'll see in New Japan, they present the Junior Heavyweight Championship in a very prestigious light. Like, it's on par with the world title and now the United Kingdom Championship that's been renamed, thankfully, by Will Ospreay. But that whole thing, it's difficult to do, and you're kind of working uphill. But its best stuff, obviously, was as a part of Enzo and Cass, and they did good merch money, man. They were some of the top merch sellers. They got huge pops. Yeah. I mean, the pop was just insane for them. Amazing. One of the best. I can't think of a babyface now that really gets pops like that isn't a top guy. Like maybe a mid-carder, but even then, it's kind of tough to say. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's kind of tough to say. But did great numbers with the merch and everything else that he was doing. And, he's a guy that could come in and he could do something interesting. If they bring him into AEW and he works with MJF, people are going to watch that. The promos are going to be good. You know what I'm saying? MJF's good enough of a worker, and I think Kaz has put in enough work where they could have a decent match. They could have something that people could watch.
You think Enzo could recreate the Soft? And listen, those merch sales were amazing.
I think he could.
You think so?
I think he could. I don't think he's one of these guys who's going to just go back to doing the same old tired shtick. I think he's going to be creative, and I think he's going to himself. And I think he's going to try and find something new, something different, something fresh, where he can kind of get back to where he once was. He's a very intelligent guy. I've met him a few times up in North Bergen. And, walking his dog on the street. And, we chopped it up for a little bit. Very cool dude. Very intelligent. You can see he knows what he's talking about when it comes to business. He knows the business side of things. He knows the business side of wrestling. And that's the important thing. And he understands that character is a big, big part of it. Yeah. And, he's made his strides to improve better and to become better, more technical in the ring. He's a dude that could do what he wants to do, but I think he's very comfortable doing what he wants to do right now, which is outside of the machine. So, I mean, let's see what happens. That's just what I think.
Yeah, let's see what happens in New Japan. Let's see what the reception is for him. Let's see how he does over there, right? What the response will be.
He'll get over there, man. Japan love big characters. They love big characters. Guys that come in that are very eccentric, very flamboyant. He's got a little bit of everything, man. So he's a dude that will get over there, and they'll find him appealing. He's also very creative with his look, Yeah. So, Enzo's a guy, I think, that gets a lot of shit, but he's a smart dude, man, and he's a dude that if he wanted to come back and do whatever he wanted to do, he could do it.
So. No, absolutely. It'll be very interesting, though. Speaking of interesting, some really unique news breaking this week, Pat. Adult film star Alexis Fawx, Fawx, I've never heard of her, has been training for perhaps a career in the pro wrestling business with AEW superstar Jay Lethal. Earlier this week, Fawx took to her Instagram account to post a video of herself working out with Lethal and several others at the wrestling lab. She captioned the video with the following, quote, wrestling practice at the Lethal J at the _wrestling_ lab at Wheezy Wrestling and at Catalina Hager. Interesting for someone like her. I mean, again, I had to Google her because I had no idea who she was.
You don't watch porn anymore?
No, I don't. I was never a frequent watcher of porn to begin with.
I had a porn phase for a little while. I did, you know.
I mean, maybe
when you watch so much of it, you become desensitized to it. You know.
I mean, maybe as a kid, maybe as like a teenager or like in high school or college, but nothing.
That's the worst. That's the worst time to watch it, man. You shouldn't even be watching it then, honestly, because it's gonna fry your fucking circuit board.
No,
man.
certainly, yeah.
You know.
But I can't remember. I mean, I think it's been decades that I can remember watching porn.
Porn's not good, people. All right. Seriously.
Interesting though that number one that she's looking to do this. Listen, if you're going to train with someone, hey, can't beat a teacher like Jay Lethal, who is a
pretty good
in the business. A guy who, I mean, listen, I don't know how old he is, but what
he's 36. He's a couple years younger than me, so he's like 36, 37.
So while he's been entertaining in AEW, obviously I think that I don't know what his ceiling is with that company. Obviously, being in a faction with Jeff Jarrett and Satnam Singh and Sanjay Spit, Zippy, as Jim Cornette affectionately calls him. Again, I think
Sanjay what?
Sanjay something. Is it Satnam Singh and Sanjay something?
Sanjay Dutt. You should know who he is. He's a big TNA guy.
I'm confusing the tall guy with the little. Okay, my bad. I'm sorry. I'm confusing the two Indian superstars. Sorry. Listen, I think the faction is. I think yes, because God forbid I don't know everyone's name. Jeez, my God. It's interesting though because I think that while that faction's entertaining, what is going to become of this? Obviously, I mean, listen, if you're just starting off training with Jay Lethal, I'm sure that we're not going to see her in a ring on any prominent television show for quite some time. But it's interesting because it sort of poses the question of like, hey, well, you've been known for doing this specific type of line of work, and you're just going to sort of jump into this. We'll see how long it takes her to adapt, to work, to have a work rate. I mean, clearly she's very flexible. I mean, if she's a porn star, I'm assuming she has some flexibility, so that might be, be advantageous for her in the wrestling business. I don't know, man, why Jay Lethal and AEW would maybe not okay this, but kind of give it its blessing is interesting because, for a company that's so worried about its public perception and they want to seem like the good guys and they want to be sort of champions for whatever social causes. I don't know. Maybe it's not the best look to have a porn star possibly working for AEW or in AEW.
Why?
I don't know.
Why? Come on, man. Most of those girls have OnlyFans. They have all that stuff.
No, agreed. I'm just curious. Well, Pat, but one thing is OnlyFans and
okay, but it's all porn, dude. It's
sure,
all porn.
It is.
It's the same thing. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, who's gonna knock a woman for sex work? Let's be real. Come on. This ain't the fucking 1970s. This ain't back in the day. What are we, Billy Graham and Jerry fucking Falwell? No, we're not.
No,
Fernando Uribe, you're New Jersey's most handsome journalist. I'm Patty Reekin, the star of the show, not you. You know what I'm saying? Come on, man. Like, we know what we are talking about, all right? We're American males right here. You know what I'm saying? Come on, man. You know you want to do it with me.
Not to be confused with former WCW tag team champions, the
American males. But I mean, like, come on. What's the big deal? Okay, she did porn. All right, cool.
No, listen, Pat, I'm with you. No, I'm with you. I'm just... For a company that's always so, guarded about the perception.
Their entire fan base watches porn. That's all the action they see and get. Okay? Smart. But Tony Khan don't even have control over Jay Lethal's school. Who Jay chooses to train, that's his own business.
No, I understand. I just thought it was just interesting about, again, being that Tony's so, I guess.
Go ahead, say it. Come on, say it. The W word. Go ahead.
No, he's just self-conscious about the perception of his company. That's all.
But not cocaine?
What, that he's woke? I mean, whatever. He can be whatever he wants. This is Speaking of Tony Khan,
Cocaine.
There seems to be some locker room heat, though, on Mr. Khan. Apparently upset about All In and maybe some of the production, some of the setup here. Apparently, and again, take this with a grain of salt, folks. Not always these news sites are always the most reliable.
You mean like the salt in these delicious Doñita plantain chips?
I'll tell you. So aside from some locker room heat over the weekend with CM Punk again, apparently some backstage controversy with Ryan Nemeth, the real-life brother of Dolph Ziggler. Apparently some heat with Hangman Adam Page as well. It seems like Punk is being his own worst enemy when it comes to his time on Collision. Obviously, you could tell they've catered that show to him, and certain stars that aren't getting TV time on Wednesdays during Dynamite or on Fridays during Rampage or during the Ring of Honor shows. It would seem that, Collision has become that staple show that is headlined by the self-proclaimed real world champion CM Punk. But it's interesting though, man, because you're looking at some of these reports, and we don't. Again, it's one of these things where how accurate it is. Collision was in Greensboro, North Carolina. Apparently,
Is that Horseman country?
Yes, it is Horseman country. Woo! Apparently, show jabs were directed at Hangman Adam Page after he saw a fan sign that said Carolina is Hangman country, which is absurd and blasphemous. But anyway, the promo included Punk.
That's racist.
Yeah, right. The promo includes
It's woke.
how he saw Hangman's action figures filling a shelf at a local store, which was a knock at Page's merchandise sales. This makes all more sense when you realize that Page lives in Greensboro. It's been reported that Punk felt bad about his post-show comments, how they came off. He did send a text message to Page to apologize, which was confirmed by multiple sources. There was some talk maybe of removing Page from the tapings. PW Insider reported that there was no such truth to the claim, and that apparently Page's absence was just simply a case of the location of the pre-tape promo being moved to a different place. That sort of drama. Apparently also there's internal heat on AEW boss Tony Khan. Apparently AEW talents and staff have said that Khan is lacking leadership. Wow, what a fucking wow. Breaking news.
You don't fucking say, huh?
Water wet. And is straining under the weight of the massive all-in show plan for Wembley Stadium later this month, along with the weight of 2 primetime TV shows and a fallout from a real-life backstage brawl that was the biggest pro wrestling locker room debacle since, well, arguably, WWE's 1987 Survivor Series, which it's not even in the same breath, which I think is funny to even make that comparison. But, quote, one unnamed wrestler said, a lot of people are upset about Wembley. Maybe if it were just Wembley, it would be different. But with everything that just happened over the last year, it's becoming the one major issue. People want to know if they're going to London, what the card is going to be. It's a show that everyone wants to be on. It's almost like WrestleMania 3. Maybe it's their WrestleMania 3, but there doesn't seem to be any urgency. People are scared we're not going to live up to the moment. More on that later, folks. Pat, a lot to unpackage there with CM Punk and Tony Khan. Where do you want to start?
Well, I mean, look, obviously, Brett gets a lot of heat wherever he's at, lately. And obviously Brett decided to have a problem with the Shawn Michaels brothers. And, for Brett to do this, thankfully he had Anvil and Davey Boy there with him on Collision. But it's just really, really sad to see what's happening here. And, hopefully when Brett gets back to Chicago, Alberta, Canada, Brett will be able to put them all in the sharpshooter and get the win, But you're asking him to lose in Chicago, Alberta, Canada. He can't do it. You can't do it. It would be like taking CM the Hitman Punk and making him drink alcohol. A lot like the alcohol that I have here, Estrella Galicia, which, if anybody's watching this from Estrella Galicia or Doñita, call me. We need some sponsorship. But, Look, man, I'm fucking tired of hearing about this shit. Like, all kidding aside, I'm fucking tired of it. Like, the more I hear this shit, the less I care about the card. And the card's very lackluster, and we'll get to that a little bit later on.
It's stacked.
But, well, every week's fucking stacked. It's stacked tonight.
That's
Stacked
right.
tonight. It's Wednesday night, and you know what that means? Working the Marks is recording. So that's what that means. But I'm just tired of hearing about this shit, to be honest, Fern. Like, it's like every week, CM Punk fucking ate a Spam sandwich, and he ate it in front of Bryan Danielson, and Bryan Danielson was like, "I'm a vegan, you shouldn't be eating that sandwich in front of me," and CM Punk ate a taco in front of a Mexican, and he said, I know something about Chicago tacos, Like, I don't know. Every fucking week the stories get more and more ridiculous. Okay, so I'm tired of it already. I don't want to hear about it anymore. Show me some fucking wrestling, bro. Show me something interesting. That's all I'm saying.
Well, the problem is that that's a really interesting word, though, man, because this card coming up, folks, in less than 2 weeks on Sunday, August the 27th, live on pay-per-view as we move on into our main event topic for the week. 1 p.m. Eastern time start for us here on the East Coast of the United States. All In emanates from Wembley Stadium. Aside from, listen, and we've dissected this almost to death for months now on the show about what the attendance is going to be. I don't believe it for a second that they've sold 90,000 seats. That's about as believable as, I don't know, take your pick, the liberal media in New Jersey. I just think that there's a lot of variables here that kind of remind you that they can't sell out an arena in the United States. I mean, again, folks, case in point, for all the AEW stands that watch this show, we appreciate you tuning in every week, obviously, that check us out on social media, which, by the way, folks, sharing is caring. Do click the share button, and, of course, follow us on all our social media brands in the Marks. Shout out, of
and
course.
Don't message me, especially
Shout
don't
out, of
message
course,
me.
to our incredible executive producer, Dee Rotten. I will not give out his government name, but, you look at just a show like Revolution in March, that emanated from probably one of the bigger toilet bowls in North America, the city of San Francisco. And you look at the beautiful brand new Chase Arena, the home.
Hell of a football team, though.
No, that's fine. Obviously, as you're getting to the arena or the stadium, you make sure you don't step on needles. But when you look at the Chase Center, beautiful new facility, home of the NBA's Golden State Warriors, seats about 18,000 people, and only 9,000 seats. Well, first of all, 9,000 seats were distributed, 8,000 were sold. So it kind of makes you wonder, like, they can't fill an arena, one of the bigger arenas in North America, for one of their major pay-per-views. And I'm going to believe that somehow, and I get it, man. We've talked about this where, Tony's father, Shad Khan, owns a football team in London, in England. Obviously, he's going to be able to have access to some tickets, maybe give them away to families, to local charities in London, whatever tickets are distributed. The idea that 90,000, and again, it's very interesting to always remember wording. It's not 90,000 tickets sold, it's distributed. And that's set for a reason, okay? Because obviously it creates the ambiguity about what exactly was sold. I don't know if we'll ever get that information about Wembley Stadium and this show, but if it's sold 90,000 tickets, that'd be a shocker to me. They can't sell out a building in North America to travel, 6 hours on plane and travel a whole ocean to think that, and I get it, AEW is popular in London. They're popular in Western Europe. Again, it's on free cable as opposed to WWE, which is on more premium cable services in Western Europe. So, okay, maybe they have a following. But this, again, the idea that we're being sold this bill of goods, that women's going to be sold out, I highly doubt that. But to compound the problem is the fact that as of right now, in tonight's August the 16th, obviously AEW Dynamite is live tonight from Nashville, Tennessee, and the Fight for the Fallen. We're talking about 11 days away, and this is the card. In the opening match during the pre-show, the Ring of Honor, again, nothing against the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles. Tremendous history, tremendous lineage. But they're being defended by Aussie Open. against MJF and Adam Cole. The two guys you're pushing as the main event for this show that arguably is supposed to sell out the stadium are going to be wrestling during the pre-show. God forbid one of them happens to get hurt during that. That could be disastrous. Then we move on to the rest of the card, and this is where it gets dicey, Pat. We have a coffin match with Darby Allin and possibly Sting in what could be his last ever wrestling match. Taking on Swerve Strickland and AR Fox. I don't know what type of coffin match you're going to have. Is it two coffins? Is it a Yokozuna-sized casket? I don't know. And then for the AEW World Tag Team titles, the Living Legends, FTR, will defend against the Young Bucks. And, in the it's supposed to be the rubber match of the trilogy.
You didn't say that.
And then you have
You didn't just say that.
and then you have a fatal four-way for the AEW Women's Championship. Hikaru Shida will be defending against Toni Storm, against Saraya, and of course, the fourth slot will be filled tonight, obviously, as the Bunny takes on Dr. Britt Baker. Whoever wins that contest tonight will fill out the fatal four-way. And in the main event, it's Adam Cole, baby, challenging the reigning and defending AEW World Heavyweight Champion, MJF. We're talking about 5 matches. This is supposed to fill 4 hours. I think this card looks light. It's far from stacked. And I have to tell you something. You want to talk about underwhelming? I mean, aside from the dating pool in the New Jersey tri-state area, it's kind of neck and neck here with this card, bro.
Well, first of all, my thoughts are brought to you by Bic Lighters. Come on, baby.
He's plugging everything tonight, folks. He's looking for anything. He's like Brick Hamlin in Anchorman. He's looking for anything to plug in the room.
My following comments are brought to you by the Magic 8 Ball. Some of our viewers know a lot about 8 balls.
That's right. A lot of viewers know about 8 balls. I'll tell you, that's a
And
county.
so does Tony Khan. But it's so like, I don't know, bro. I'm just not even like remotely excited. And honestly, I'm not a big AEW fan. It's no fucking mystery, right? And I'm gonna try and be fair with them. I'm gonna try and be fair with them here. But there's just absolutely nothing compelling about this card at all. Like, nothing that's drawing me in. Forbidden Door, there was a couple matches. Okay, let me give it a look. Let me give it a fucking gander. The main event sold me immediately, right? But with this, what's really there? What's really there? What's appetizing, right? Okay, so here's another thing. Now, you said the show starts at 1 o'clock, right? 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, right? Okay. So let's take...
The pre-show's from 12 to 1.
Okay. Well, Tony Khan's lucky that this isn't during, like, NFL season, right? Because if it was during NFL season, he'd be up Schitt's Creek.
Well, it's in the Premier League. I mean,
exactly.
That's just as problematic.
It's during the Premier League season, right? And the big thing is that a lot of the big teams play on that Sunday. Now, for anybody who watches our show, right, all 5 of you, most of them are in a chat with you guys. But, anybody that watches this show, that, we like to talk about a lot of different types of sports and all that stuff. But if you know anything about sports, particularly soccer, particularly the Premier League, La Liga, the creme de la creme fucking, leagues in the world, you would know that the Premier League has a huge rights deal, huge distribution deal with NBC Sports, right? And Peacock and basically all the shows that are within the family, right? So most of their viewership worldwide outside of England comes from the United States, which is why you see Chelsea coming over here. You see Crystal Palace, you see Everton, you see all these teams coming over here and doing a soccer summer series. You saw Arsenal taking on the mighty Manchester United at MetLife Stadium. You saw all that stuff because a lot of the big money that comes from the Premier League comes from the United States. So let's say you're a wrestling fan and you're also a Premier League fan, and you wake up on that Sunday morning, right? And you're going to tune in and you're going to get ready for All In, right? But let's say you're a fan of, I don't know, Aston Villa, Man City, Liverpool, Newcastle, Sheffield United, Burnley. All these games. Let me read you some of the matches that are on that schedule, okay? Sunday, all right, I'll get closer to the ones that are on at that time. But you got Liverpool versus Newcastle at 11:30 in the morning, okay? That's a game that a lot of people are going to watch. You also got to think, too, that there's La Liga fixtures that people are going to be watching. Liverpool's one of the most followed clubs in the world, dude.
Yep.
So there's definitely Liverpool fans that watch wrestling. And there's going to be people, young people particularly, because this is the demo that, you know, they score big with the Premier League, and why you're seeing so many young kids getting into soccer now, too. A lot of that demo is going to be watching, you know, AEW as well, right? So you have both of those fan bases that are going to be watching the Premier League and are going to be watching AEW. So their numbers at the beginning are not going to be great. And since it's going to be a 7-hour show, you know, by the time it gets to the main event, you know, people will either be completely drunk, or they might have gone out for the evening, or they might be doing something else, baking a cake, you know, getting polenta with dry toast from somewhere. You don't know. You don't know what people are going to be doing at that time. But you figure you have La Liga on that day, and La Liga, the fixtures come on even later because it's 10 p.m., 11 p.m. over there in Spain, right? So you figure you're going to have 2 or 3 o'clock matches, right? Probably 3 o'clock matches if you think about it. And you're going to have these late games. Now, if Real Madrid or Barcelona play, which they're also 2 of the most followed teams in the world, you telling me that those fans aren't going to tune in to watch that, and they're going to be like, it's the beginning of All In. So they're going to do bad numbers at the beginning, dude. They're going to do very bad numbers. That's a given.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I'll let you finish your thought, though. But
Yeah.
to all the excellent points you're raising,
But even in England,
not just a viewership perspective, but I think also we have to factor in the idea that traffic, I don't mean online, I don't mean metrics, I mean physical congestion because of having to navigate through London. To your point about teams playing during that time in other parts of England, London, nearby, or wherever, I mean, unless you're going to be getting to Wembley early, a lot of these marks, you know, they might be out the night before drinking, who knows, trying to pick up girls. Well, I don't know about that, but just drinking. The reality is that could also factor in to how full that building's going to look at 7 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. London time, which is when it's starting. So to me, I think it's kind of interesting where, you know, people might still be navigating through the city, getting from stadium to stadium, things of that nature. So not just the viewership that you mentioned, pay-per-view, buys, and everything else, the physical congestion, I think, is also going to be a factor of people getting to Wembley because they might be somewhere else, or they can't get to Wembley as expeditiously as they would like because of the congestion, which I think doesn't get talked about enough. But continue, though, man.
No. That's a valid point. And to that point, there's 6 Premier League teams that play in London: Chelsea, Tottenham Hotspur, Arsenal, West Ham United, Crystal Palace, and Brentford. 6 teams, okay? So let's say, imagine you're Joe Schmo from England. You know, you got lousy teeth. You're hanging out over there. You're watching your Premier League football for that weekend. You go to the Brentford match. You go to the West Ham match. You go to Tottenham, Chelsea, Arsenal. You're going to any one of those matches, man. You're going to spend your money, number one, and get bent over a barrel for the ticket. That's number one, because the tickets are not cheap, okay? And not only that, but you're going to blow all your money there buying gimmicks, getting smashed because your teeth are horrible and, you know, you support a shit football club. What makes Tony Khan think that people are going to want to go to his game afterwards? You know what I'm saying? Oh, and Fulham. I believe Fulham is also in London too. Like, nobody's going to want to go to his fucking show afterwards. Nobody's going to want to go to his show fucking afterwards, dude. Nobody. No. You know what I'm saying? You're going to spend your money that weekend, bro. You're not going to do well.
It almost feeds the theory that they might just be having to give tickets away.
They're going to give a ton of tickets away.
Just to make that building look full. Because again, if you're starting at 1 p.m. Eastern time, and maybe this is a misguided sort of conceptualization I think that he has. He feels that if he puts MJF and Cole in the opening match or pre-show, that's going to compel people to want to get there because they want to see MJF and Cole possibly win the Ring of Honor tag titles. Which does, I mean, theoretically, I'm still under the premise and the hypothesis that Cole's going to be the one that actually turns on MJF, not the other way around, which is what most people are kind of predicting. I think Cole's going to turn on him, and we'll see what happens. So the idea that it got me scratching my head. Why would Cole and MJF kick off the program? And the first thing I said was like, well, maybe Khan realizes he has to kind of give people a reason to want to be in the building as early as possible. No disrespect to the rest of the card, which looks very thin, but if this show's going to be 4 hours, 4 and change, they have 5 matches. That coffin match is going to be a shit show. The women's match, for as much as it's a fatal 4-way, that's not going to be a 30-minute classic. It's far from it. Sure, the Bucks and FTR, that's a match I think a lot of us are looking forward to if we're going to watch the show, especially me. I'm a big FTR mark. But, other than that, you got to have some other titles on the line. I mean, obviously, whether or not Omega's going to be there, what's going to happen with Punk, the notion that Punk isn't even advertised for the show yet, I thought was interesting. Looking at whether or not the coveted international championship will be up for grabs, the TBS championship will be up for grabs, whether or not the trios titles will be up for grabs. Like, with 11 days to go, it's funny to me where marks online were giving WWE so much shit on social media, whether it's like the usual suspects about, 2 weeks out of WrestleMania, the cards aren't even finalized. Meanwhile, 11 days to go, there's 5 matches for what is supposed to be the biggest show in pro wrestling. Again, we all know the hypocrisy that AEW marks live on. Not a surprise there, but I'm just really, really shocked that the card has not been finalized this close already. But maybe that's just me, bro.
It's so fucking weird, dude, because you know what? We were watching during the Attitude Era. We all watched everything, bro. We all watched everything. Yeah, there were some people that didn't like WCW. There were some people that didn't like WWF. But I think a vast majority of us all watched WWF, WCW, and ECW. Like, that was what we did. And I don't recall this type of tribalism. I mean, it existed on the indies, and maybe that's where it's kind of crept its way into AEW and into the psyche of some wrestling fans, unfortunately. But I just don't recall this. And I mean, do you remember any of this shit? Do you remember going to an ECW show and, somebody wearing a WWF shirt and people being like, you suck, or anything like that? No, we were all fucking wrestling fans. We were enjoying the fucking wrestling. We were enjoying the gimmick.
Well, it was interesting because I remember
there was gimmick stuff where they would talk shit, but we as fans were not like that, with one another. And
I don't remember again. And WCW didn't have a lot of shows in the Northeast per se. But I remember going to a couple of them, and it was like, okay, well, if you wore an Austin shirt, I mean, just watch Nitro. There were tons of people wearing Austin gear or other DX, right? When at the height of the New World Order. I mean, maybe not so much the height, but in late 1990, in really the summer of 1997 when DX was born, the NWO was still a thing. It was still pretty hot, but you saw plenty of fans on Nitro wearing WWF gear. You saw plenty of people wearing WCW gear at WWF shows. So yes, I think there was some tribalism, but it was mild. It was almost like when you get a scratchy throat after, let's say, being in the AC all day, and then you, I don't know, take a shower and fall asleep with your hair wet, all those, those Cuban Hispanic folktales, right? About like, whether or not that gets you sick or not. It almost seemed like it was like a scratchy throat as opposed to like now where it's like a full blown like flu where like
it's a pandemic
fever and you're like, congestion and you have a massive sore throat. Like that's the level of tribalism I think that exists now as opposed to what we saw 20, 25 years ago. And it's really alarming because, and I think that this show has accentuated that because AEW fans, no matter what data you give them, no matter what facts you provide for them, again, case in point, like I just mentioned about Revolution. Revolution's one of AEW's bigger shows, right? It's a nice name for a pay-per-view. It's always been at pretty decent locations. But again, the Chase Center, a new building, one of the bigger arenas in North America, right? For the NBA, for hockey, even though they don't have a hockey team yet in San Francisco, but concerts or whatever. Chase Center's pretty big. They only sold 8,000 seats and they distributed like 1,000. That's half the building. Tony Khan tried to make it look like the Chase Center was as sold out as like during a Warriors-Lakers playoff game when the Lakers were eliminating their sorry asses. You know what I'm saying? So I just thought it was interesting that despite the fact you throw these facts at them, or talk about Double or Nothing in Vegas. Again, T-Mobile Arena, once again, one of the bigger arenas in North America, home to the Las Vegas Knights, home to what will soon be an NBA franchise. Multiple concerts. It's a big arena. That still wasn't sold out. So the idea that when you say that to an AEW, Mark, oh, well, why does the show have to be sold out? What? What was the ridicule about SummerSlam? Oh, well, it was only 59,000 people at Ford Field. Oh, it wasn't what it was at WrestleMania 23, where it was okay, that was WrestleMania 23 in 2007 was a ridiculous card, okay, with the Battle of the Billionaires, Shawn Michaels versus John Cena, the famous Money in the Bank ladder match won by Mr. Kennedy. There's a lot of variables. Okay, guess what? Ford Field had a pretty good turnout for a WWE, arguably the second biggest pay-per-view that we've ever known about WWF/WWE. But now all of a sudden, gates don't matter. Attendance, oh, well, it's not such a big of a deal. It's a big deal now because I think this show's going to flop in more ways than one, and it's going to be rich for me to read the banter online by AEW defenders and enablers that are going to say, well, the show was pretty much sold out. It's almost like when Meltzer talked to Chris Van Vliet, right? Remember when Chris Van Vliet called them out and said, well, that wasn't a 5-star match. Oh, well, it was 4 3/4, almost 5 stars. That's the level of rationalization that I think AEW fans, well, it was almost sold out. I doubt it's going to be almost sold out. If that building has 50,000 people, again, 50,000 people is a great accomplishment for them, but it's not going to have 90,000 people.
I agree with you. And I think, from the very beginning.
Whoa.
What?
You never agree with the professor.
I agree with him on some things. Like the
Clock is
Devils.
right twice a day too, I guess.
Apparently we both agree to have pictures of musicians in the background, or I have Lemmy and you have Michael Bublé. But
well, they're both Grammy Award winners. Come on, man.
Yeah, but one of them wrote Triple H's theme song, so but
okay.
I agree with you. And I think that the show has potential to underwhelm severely. I'm just not interested in anything that's going on in this. And they're going to end up doing Joe and Punk, right? That's coming, right? Samoa Joe versus Punk, that shit's going to happen.
Sure.
I'm not interested in that. I saw it already. There's no need to do this. Again, if you're not doing, at least the Young Bucks FTR kind of makes sense in a weird way. But even that match I don't care about. I hope the Young Bucks win because it makes sense. They're better. But, for me, I just don't give a shit, dude. If they do Samoa Joe and Punk again, okay, great. But I want to see Punk versus Omega.
Yes.
I want to see Punk versus Hangman. I want to see something better.
Yes.
I want to see Bryan Danielson. But unfortunately he's hurt. But even if they bring Okada, even if they bring all these guys in, dude, I still just don't think it's gonna be enough. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I don't think it's gonna be enough at all. And I'm not thrilled by this card. You obviously know Britt Yankum is going to end up being in that 4-way match for the women's title. That's coming, right? We all know that.
Yes.
But even with that, I just don't care. I don't care about any of it. It's really, really sad. And I think that this is a pay-per-view that's mainly for their fans, and they have a little bit of time to turn it around and to actually provide a good card, man.
So would you say, Pat, it's not stacked, it's lackluster?
It's lackluster. It's not good, dude. It's the drizzling shits. And
wow.
I think at the end of the day, this is a testament to Tony Khan's inability to be able to book continuously good stories. He has his moments. He has his little peaks and valleys where he does something kind of cool. And you're like, oh, shit, this is kind of cool. Let's follow this up, right? And instead of him following it up and doing something cool, he just goes the opposite way and shits the bed. And it's the same problem. And now this problem is kind of hitting him at the absolute worst time. But their core audience is going to love what they do no matter what. They're going to love it. They're going to love it. All those guys could walk out there. They could take a shit in the middle of the ring and they'll be perfectly fine. They'll be perfectly fine with it. So it's, yes, some of it's for their hardcore fans, but like for me to believe that this show, regardless of how many people watch it in the UK, right? For me to believe that this show can attract 90,000 people legitimately, solely based on Adam Cole versus MJF. I don't know. It's a little fishy. It's a little fishy. That's all.
Remind you, Pat, that just a week later on Labor Day weekend, they're going to be in Chicago for All Out, and you know, you have to almost believe that it's probably going to be just a lot of rematches from All In, which is funny from AEW marks because all they ever do is love to ridicule WWE. Oh, look at WrestleMania Backlash, or look at this pay-per-view. It's just all rematches from the previous PLE. I mean,
let me ask you a question, Fern. How many times have they been to Chicago already?
Well, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, obviously in June for the return of CM Punk and the debut of not Collision, but really the show for it. And now think about it. They're going to fly out of London on Sunday night.
Yeah.
For Dynamite on Wednesday at the United Center. And then Friday's Rampage is live from the United Center. Saturday Night Collision is live from the United Center. And the next night is All Out live from the United Center. You want to talk about fatigue. You want to talk about, I get it. All Out arguably is their WrestleMania. It's their marquee show for the year. But holy shit, they're going to be in Chicago the entire week. I mean, listen, the owners, concessions, they're going to be ecstatic that these fans are going to pack into United Center. Now, is the building going to be sold out all 4 nights? I seriously doubt it. It might be sold out for All Out, maybe, with Punk, or who knows what happens with whatever they're doing. But the idea that a Rampage is going to be sold out on Friday night, and then Collision, and then to the point that they're probably going to be taping the Ring of Honor show right afterwards. I mean, that's exhausting. And then All Out's going to be 4 hours on Sunday during Labor Day weekend. That's a big ask. But again, back-to-back shows, I think it's very risky. I think it's something that Tony Khan, if he's not chopping up Adderall into literally small little baggies to have hourly, I don't know what's going to happen to him. Not that I know what that's like, but I've heard of the practice. But I just think this is a scary time for him because he's putting a lot of his eggs into a basket for this show. And if it flops, to your point, Pat, the defenders and enablers are going to make excuses. They'll find a way to rationalize, well, it was still a good show because it was sunny and the sun shined on the ring during the opening match and it didn't rain when it can rain a lot in London in the summer. You know, like every excuse possible I think is going to come up. But I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens in 11 days. And obviously a week later going to Chicago when they return back to the States. Pat, before we call it a night here, on this day in pro wrestling history, interesting little note here. I think you'll be delighted to hear this one. On this day, August the 16th, in 2001, WWF/WWE presented the first ever live edition of SmackDown, airing on UPN. Now, the show was notable for the debut of the SmackDown Fist stage and the use of the Beautiful People song made famous by Marilyn Manson, which was the show's theme for quite some time. So, you know, back when it debuted in August of 99, it was a tape show, which we would watch on Thursdays. Coincidentally, live for the first time on this day in 2001. And on this day in 2004, the night right after SummerSlam, on a Raw episode airing from Ontario, Canada, right after Toronto, we saw the celebration for the newly crowned World Heavyweight Champion, which up until that point was the youngest world champion in WWE history. Randy Orton was hoisted up in the air by his Evolution teammates. All was well until Triple H did the infamous thumbs down, signaling the end of Orton's time in Evolution, and for Batista to bring him down and proceed with a beatdown. Also on this day in 2009, Impact Wrestling presented Hard Justice on pay-per-view. The main event saw Kurt Angle retain the Impact World Championship against Matt Morgan and the Icon Sting. The card also featured Samoa Joe defeating Homicide for the coveted X Division Championship, as well as Kevin Nash, who miraculously didn't pull a quad, went over on Mick Foley for the TNA Impact Legends Championship. And also on this day in 2010, the record was set for the quickest championship match to take place on Raw when Sheamus defeated Zack Ryder to successfully defend the WWE Championship in 11 seconds. All this on this day, August 16th, in pro wrestling history. Pat, let's close it out here.
Wow, that's a lot of history, pal. I remember that, HBK, with the big super kick on The Rock? And The Rock was getting ready to hit that people's elbow. British Bulldog working in fucking jeans in the black boots.
No, Pat. That was in 99. The debut of SmackDown.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
99, yeah.
That was when they first made it a regular show, but they did like a one-off episode. I remember that. Yeah. Okay.
Because remember, those were recorded on Tuesdays. But the first live episode was in 2001. Very interesting because, listen, dude, for all of us that played video games, we all loved that SmackDown stage with the fist. We all loved it. It was amazing. By the way, folks, for everyone watching Work in the Marks right now, it is official. Chris Jericho gave Don Callis his answer. He has been assaulted by Will Ospreay and Takeshita. Effectively, I think it's fair to say that Chris Jericho is once again a face in All Elite Wrestling. So just a little bit of breaking news here on the show.
How exciting.
I know, right? But again, all that good stuff going on this date, August 16th, in pro wrestling history. Pat, what do you got for us as we close it out?
Nothing much, man. Great to have you back finally. Don't disappear. I hope you don't end up with Interpol or wherever it was that you were. I heard you were detained at the border for a little while too long there, but that's all right. And stop finding T-shirts in the trash, Maybe start getting some T-shirts that are actually worth something, like this wonderful.
It's the top 7.
Wonderful Oasis shirt I have, Oasis. You like Nickelback, so you appreciate shitty bands. Oasis, they're fucking awesome. Come on.
Be the one that saves me.
That's right. Wonderwall. That's a karaoke hit. And I just want to send a special shout out to my main dude right here, Judah. Got Judah joining me here. He's doing all my research and stuff like that.
Hey, Judah, how's your iPad? Oh, very
Look at
nice,
that. He's very thankful. Uribe came through with a wonderful gift. All right.
I'll tell you.
But what do you got to tell him, kid? What do you got to tell him? Right before we close the show out.
Thank you.
That's right. He said
Hey,
thank you.
Judah, could you convince your dad to maybe grow out your hair as beautiful as your hair looks? Because I got to tell you, man, your hair looks great.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah. He's a nice kid, It's sometimes I wonder if he's my kid.
1 second. Man City's nothing.
That's right. That's my boy right there. United.
We
leave you on that final note. Go plug your political gimmicks. Thank you so much for supporting people. Don't message me. I'm hanging out with my kids. I'm being a good dad. # good dad gang. All right. See you later, Professor. Stop being a philanderer, huh? All right. Take it easy. D, I love you. Take it easy. All right, guys. Have a good night. Thank you.
I'll tell you, folks, he is the PVR superstar, New Jersey's premier wrestling analyst, Patrick Vicente Rivera. Folks, as a special reminder, coming up this Monday night live at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, the latest edition of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe via Jersey First TV. I'll have distinguished professor of media at Rutgers University, my alma mater, Professor John Pavlik, will join me to talk about the state of media in New Jersey and also nationally, talk a little bit about the current political climate, and certainly much, much more. Folks, tune in on Monday night, this Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time via Jersey First TV on Facebook Live via streaming and also on the Jersey First YouTube page and, of course, also on jerseyfirst.org/TV. My special guest will be Rutgers University professor, again, distinguished professor of media, John Pavlik. I think he'll have a lot to say about what's going on in media, and we'll certainly look forward to having him on this Monday night. Folks, always sharing is caring. Click the share button. Make sure that you follow us on all of our social media platforms. Special thank you to our amazing and gifted and dedicated executive producer, Dee Rotten, for always bringing this show to you. And, of course, the way it's so beautifully produced and designed. Again, we could not do it without Dee Rotten, our amazing executive producer. Shout out to him. Folks, always remember, if we're talking about pro wrestling and we're pissing off the marks, we're doing it here on Famcast Media, folks. Make sure you tune in next week. The latest edition of Working the Marks, once again here on Facebook Live, also on YouTube, and most importantly, on Famcast Media. I am New Jersey's premier journalist, Fernando Uribe, saying so long, folks. And always remember, if you can't be good, be bad, baby. We'll see you next week here on Famcast Media.
Famcast Media. Bitch.